Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And we're back. We're back this week for another fabulous episode. Well, I don't know if... All right, let's parse. I've been watching the Carlin documentary on HBO, which is amazing and everyone should watch it. But I'm like, all right, so let's be very careful with our words here. I don't know. I'll let you be the judge whether the episode is fabulous. But we're back with another episode of Joe on Joe about a fabulous comic book, which is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 127. So I want to be very precise. Language means a lot. It always has meant a lot to me. I have gotten in more arguments than I really would like to admit over years, saying, no, that is not exactly what I said. What I exactly said was X, Y, and Z. And then that only leads to more arguments. So let's be precise. It's another episode of my show. Mileage may vary. So thank you all for listening. Welcome aboard, new readers, new listeners. This is the podcast where I, Joe Slepsky, go over every issue of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero in sequential order, page by page, panel by panel. It's what we like to call Joe and Joe Illustrated. The Joe and Joe podcast itself, we've been going over everything of G.I. Joe animated wise, and now we're working our way through our comic books, and we're going to be getting back to the animated stuff, some of the more modern stuff very soon, but we do all that in sequential order. We've done all the Sunbow and all the DIC. We even did Extreme! And it's the home of Cold Slither, and soon to be the home of, Redacted, because I'm not going to tell you what our big summer blockbuster is, but we have a summer blockbuster all lined up coming this way during Cobra Convergence, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. This week, I got some contributing artwork from friend of the show, Philip Barnes. Spoiler alert, you're going to love it. I love it. We're starting to get audio in. We're going to be recording more audio this week and next week. It's exciting. So I can't wait to share it with you guys. And I think a lot of you are going to be like, what? And a lot of you are going to be like, that's kind of fun. But I know I'm going to love it. So, and I love all you listeners. You guys are all great. In fact, you're so great. I know that you're out there listening, giving us reviews on all of your podcast catchers. And if you haven't done that, open up your pod listener, your pod catcher, and give us a rate and a review. That always helps our standings. It gets more people to see our show in their feeds, helps grow the show. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Joe on Joe Pod. You can send me an email at joeandjoepod@gmail.com. And that's what one listener did this week. A fabulous listener. His name's Scotty Cameron. Scotty, thank you so much for your email. And I appreciate your kind words about the show. And you helped clarify something that I also did a little research into. And your clarification absolutely jived with what, not jived, it's jibed, I think, with a B. It jibed with what I learned as well. Last week, during our segment on DC Comics, as I was walking through it in real time, I realized, why are they listing Wildcats #1? And was it an error? Was it like maybe my thought was maybe it actually was distributed by DC, because in the early Image days they were distributed by Malibu Comics. So I thought maybe in the early days it went through DC for some reason. That is not the case. They were distributed by Malibu, but in this case, what's happening, and this is absolutely confirmed by Scotty Cameron, he said he's run into this as well. It's all the Wildstorm. It's all the Jim Lee stuff, because Jim Lee's studio, Wildstorm, is owned by DC Comics. So when the people that are putting these databases together, it's lumping Wildstorm into DC. So, as an artifact of history, I would argue, bad history, that's a bad artifact, because it is owned by currently it's owned by DC. Back in the day, it was absolutely an Image comic. So that's just something where I'm going to be on the lookout for. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to reminisce fondly about old Image comic books, because the excitement and everything was absolutely without peer. It was unparalleled. It was an event I'm so happy I lived through. It was a huge moment. 92, I was 17. Yeah, I was 17. And everything was, comics were huge. The bubble was about to burst, but it hadn't burst yet. Like, this was an exciting time, and God bless them. But I'm telling you right now, those early Image comics are terrible. They are not fun. They're not good. I don't care how much Spawn #1 sells for. Spawn was a half-baked ripoff of multiple ideas, drawn really, really well. There was a reason why Todd brought in, fresh writers about 6 months into it, and had Neil Gaiman contribute some ideas and Dave Sim. And then eventually they brought in Alan Moore to work on, like, those early Image comics were not very good comic books. So I personally do not have a fondness for them. I had a bunch of them in my collection until a few years ago when I finally was like, I don't care what happens to these books as far as, they make a movie and all of a sudden they're real valuable. I was just like, I want them out. I don't enjoy them. I didn't enjoy them then. I didn't have a huge collection. The longest one I read, and I guess I'm reminiscing now, so, open mouth, insert foot. The longest one I ever read was Spawn. I kept up reading Spawn through college, early years of college. I think I got through like the mid 40s of Spawn, and I finally was like, why am I reading this? This isn't that good. And Todd wasn't even doing the artwork anymore. So I don't have a lot of fond memories for Image, so don't expect me to start doing what you were saying about Image comics. I'm going to deftly ignore that when we do the DC ones. So, you may agree with me, you may not agree with me, but thanks to Scotty Cameron, now we understand why that was included in last week's feed. Also, what we want to understand is how awesome was Top Gun Maverick. If you want to see some old school Sky Striker, like cosplay, basically, go see Top Gun Maverick. And you get that at the end of the movie. The whole time I'm thinking, oh, this is like watching a Sky Striker back at work, man. This is kind of awesome. And the better way to listen to it would be I'd listen to our friends at the Movies and a Meal podcast, because I know for a fact they just talked about Top Gun Maverick on this week's episode. Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie. It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. And so with that, we are going to get into talking about G.I. Joe. I did get this week. One, I was on vacation. I came home with a. We talked about that last week. Came home with the road layer. What's his name? With the hard hat. Anyway, I'm blanking on his name. It's been a rough week. But one of the things I did pick up, which I realized I definitely picked up new this week, which I forgot. I forgot to buy when they announced them, or just I missed it, is the new wave of Super 7 stuff. So I got in the mail, I got my Firefly, my new version Cobra Commander, the Cobra, the Cobra female trooper. I got Flint. They all look amazing. The new look Snake Eyes looks great. And Super 7 does a pretty good job of, and the regular roadblock, not just body massage roadblock. Super 7 does a really good job of packing them and sending them to you. You get them unpunched. So the cards are pretty pristine. I was very happy with it. Also as we speak, and this sale might be over, but Target had a lot of the like V1, V2 Super 7s for 50% off. So may or may not be still active as of this recording, but check those out for sure. Yeah. And then we're talking G.I. Joe 128 today, which is broad strokes, a return to form, in my opinion. And we're gonna get into that, but not until
You were saying
we talk about the comic books that were on the shelf from DC and Marvel the same month that G.I. Joe 128 was on. It's a cover dated September of 1992. And we'll start over at DC with the Ambush Bug Nothing Special issue number 1. I love Ambush Bug. I think he's great. I love Keith Giffen's art on Ambush Bug. I love Giffen's art during this era. I think it's strong. I know a friend of the show, Jericho Wilson, would choose to disagree with that. But I think Giffen's, and especially when Al Gordon was inking, I don't know if Gordon inked this one. Let's click through and find out. Inker. Al Gordon inked it. Yep. Al Gordon's inks on this era of Keith Giffen's pencils it's just all phenomenal. So the Ambush Bug Nothing Special, that was out this month, pardon me. Deathstroke the Terminator has his turn in the Eclipso annual wheel. We talked about Eclipso a lot last week. There's also, who else has their annuals this month? Hawk World. Robin with a cool Sam Keith cover, holding Anarchy above what it's a bridge, but it looks like it's the Eiffel Tower. It's a very awkwardly posed Robin, but a cool drawing of him, but awkward. Like how big is he in comparison to what might be the Eiffel Tower? I don't know. Teen Titans number 1 came out. I was a big Titans fan. Titans were really big at this time. They were on the wane, like versus the the early Perez years, but this was like an era of expansion for all comics, right? So Teen Titans begat a book called Team Titans, right? Which was Titans from the future that came back to kind of correct things. And it had Mirage. It had a version of Terra, who, previously worked with Deathstroke and, went bad, Terra. And what they did with the first issue is they did multiple variant covers, but actually the comics themselves were also different. So I believe it was like an 8-pager that had new material for that specific hero: Kilowatt, Mirage, Knight Rider, Red Wing, and Terra. And then the rest of the comic was the same. And it was, like the team getting together and, meeting the Titans and things like that. So there was an actual good incentive to get all 5 versions of issue number 1 versus, how they did with X-Force a couple months back, which was just, 5 different trading cards, or with X-Men where it was just 5 different covers. Team Titans was actually 5 different content in pieces of content in each of the actual number 1 books. I never did get all 5 of those together as back issues. Just, it wasn't high on my priority. And then I never really did get a full collection of it. I loved the Kevin Maguire, is Kevin Maguire, Chris Press? It's Kevin Maguire, right? Covers. Kevin Maguire covers. I love the Maguire covers, and it was a lot of fun. I think the best character that came out of there was Mirage. She stuck around for a few years with the Titans. And it did start this trend of saying, let's bring back Terra, because it was like a future Terra, of let's bring her back into the real world, which I was like, well, she kind of worked better as the villain, and she gone villain in the Titans, but it is what it is. Legion of Superheroes 33 is a great issue. It gave us the origins of a hero that we knew nothing about because he was created brand new, but he was a forgotten hero in the history of Legion, Quantum Kid. And he was great. And he showed up in the Hall of the Dead, and this issue said, well, here's why you don't remember him. It's an idea that Marvel would do with the Sentry. DC would later do it, or shortly do it, with over in the Justice League with that guy. Mark Waid did it with, he had a blue and yellow costume, and his name was, man, I tell you, I think I gotta start taking those memory pills because there's some of this stuff is like it's at the forefront of my brain. I'm like, I can't really get around it. Oh, Triumph, that was his name. The dude Triumph, not the insult comic dog. Although that would be amazing if he was secretly a member of the Justice League the whole time and they forgot him. But they did that with Quantum, or Kid Quantum. That's his name, Kid Quantum over in Legion, and it's a really good issue. Jason Pearson is on the art. That's a cool. Here's another good book. It's Martian Manhunter: American Secrets, and it's Eduardo Barreto and Gerard Jones. Again, the Gerard Jones part is tough because we all know we've talked about this before. It's problematic. But Eduardo Barreto doing 50s noirish artwork for the Martian Manhunter and in a detective story. Martian Manhunter: American Secrets is so worth checking out. It's so good. All right, and that's it for DC.
You were saying?
Now we're going to move on to Marvel. Marvel. Recently I was talking about the Avengers in the last few months of this, as we were doing these G.I. Joes, you were saying, we were running through the Avengers was the Galactic Storm miniseries, the crossover rather. That we talked about that a lot in the last month or 2 months of my podcast. I saw on the shelf, was it last week, that DC or Marvel just put out a new epic collection of the Galactic Storm. So if you were interested in that, I really recommend it because it's a fun, big, in the style of Secret Wars and the style of the Infinity Gauntlet, big Avengers universe spanning crossover that got everybody involved and changed the universe for a long time. And they just put out an epic collection that covers that ground. So I don't exactly know the number, but it's Avengers Epic Collection, and it covers the Galactic Storm crossover, which is really pretty cool. So that's neat. That's good. Good timing. Serendipitous timing on our part. Capwolf continues. Cap was bi-weekly for the summer, and Capwolf or Captain America 406 and Captain America 407 is pretty great. As long as you're doing it, might as well lean into it. So Captain America 406 has Capwolf. I keep making this mistake. Capwolf on the cover, fighting alongside Wolverine, Rain from the New Mutants, and in this case, she would have been on X-Force at this time. I believe that's Werewolf by Night. And I don't know who the wolf girl in the back is. Could that possibly be Squirrel Girl? I don't think so. I don't know. It says other characters that are listed. Wolfsbane, Manwolf, or I guess maybe he's one. Maybe that's not Werewolf by Night. That's actually Manwolf, John Jameson. But they don't say who the other wolf girl in the back is supposed to be on that cover. It's not listed in this database. So I don't know who that could be. But it looks like how you would old school draw Rain from New Mutants. So, but listen, you get the wolf characters together, you gotta use that cover space appropriately. So I applaud that choice. And then he fights Cable on the next issue. When will Capwolf win? When will he win? Let's see here. Infinity War is up to issue number 4. Remember, don't be fooled by this. Just because it's got the name of the movie, it's got nothing to do with the movie. Iron Man is dead. I think he got shot last issue, and this is the funeral for him. This is where I think it was Bethany Cabe shot Iron Man, and he actually faked his death, or actually was dead and was living in cyber hibernation for a while. And James Rhodes took over again. But this lasted. It's 284. I think this lasted a good year, where the world thought he was dead, and then he started controlling his the suit by telepathy, cybernetic telepathy kind of a thing. So he's in a casket on the cover of 284. Let's see. Mighty Thor 451 Blood Axe has a homage to Beta Ray Bill Thor 337, or Blood Axe, which was a Kevin Masterson. Kevin Masterson was his son. Thunderstrike's kid. It was Thunderstrike's bad guy. It was Thunderstrike's main bad guy, Blood Axe was. And there was a big mystery of who he was. I think he ended up being the chief of police or the head detective guy. It's been a while since I've read my Thunderstrike. Eric Masterson was Thunderstrike, yeah, and his son was Kevin, and his son was the Thor hero from the future and the like the Marvel Future books. So Morbius, if you didn't get enough of Morbius, the great movie, Morbius the Living Vampire #1 hit the stands back in cover dated September of 1992. Day That Will Live in Infamy. Morbius #1. Punisher again has 5 comic books on stand with his name on it this month. Oh, William Shatner's Tech World makes a landing this month rather. This was the Tech World novels that Shatner oversaw, supposedly wrote. Maybe he did. I don't know. Ghost written, but oversaw definitely for sure. And What If this month, and What If 41 is what if the Avengers had fought Galactus with a fun old school cover. Wolverine is got Mark Teixeira covers right in the middle of Larry Hama stuff. Yeah. So it's a solid month. It's a solid month for Marvel, but I think, here's another one of those Spider-Man lenticular anniversary covers, Spider-Man 26. It's certainly not the first 2099 appearance that we had last month. So, yeah, Spider-Man's plugging along in the 90s. They're doing their thing. Every once in a while, something exciting pops up. And that's it for
You were saying?
All right. G.I. Joe 128. Fun cover. Well, not fun. I mean, it's not fun for Hawk. It's fun for us. It's a fun cover by Andrew Wildman. Hawk is seemingly injured, and we know from reading inside that he has been shot. So, yes, Hawk has had better days for sure. But it's what I like about this cover is the break in the fourth wall. So speaking of that, Simonson 337 cover, you got a lot of bullets flying. The G.I. Joe, not just the G.I. Joe logo is riddled with bullets, but also the indicia in the top left where, Mrs. Marvel Comics has a picture of Cobra Commander raising his fist, the price tag and all that stuff. The Comics Code Authority, that's all getting sliced by gunfire as well, both Lady J's and incoming. So that's a nice use of that. Adds a lot of depth to this picture. It works. I mean, it works for me. It is a reminder that you go, oh yeah, I forgot where these guys were at. So, which brings us a bigger picture issue that I'm happy to say I think's been resolved.
Yo, Joe!
So this goes back, 3, 4, 5 months now, 5 issues, where we talked about when, they had the editorial change, and then they did that 3-in-1 book, then it was the 2-in-1, and then it was just the 1, but it was the ninjas, but we hadn't touched on them in 2 months, and all that, like that, the timing was seemingly thrown off. And I talked a lot about how normally Hama is the king of balancing these multiple story arcs, right? So I feel real good this issue that it's back to what he normally does. And I wonder if that is a result of, the editorial kind of settling back in, with the shift in editorial, maybe there was a push to do something different and it threw off kind of the pacing that, we, the readers, were used to forever. So the books just felt not balanced and, not, when you do a book this large with this big of an appeal, and I'm talking there about this broad of an appeal. I'm talking about like the different styles. You can have people that like ninjas. You can have people that like the military stuff. You can have people that like the more, just the Cobra schemes of it all. You can have people that just like focusing on the random characters versus the main, ninjas aside, the main core, Hawk and Jay and Flint, what I mean? Like there's multiple ways to get into a book like this. And I think that's one of the reasons that always made G.I. Joe a popular book, is there's different avenues for any fan, whatever it is you're into, to kind of dig into the book and get to it. And I think that's what's been a little off with these last few months, that kind of threw me off a little bit because it's been on such a good rhythm. That I absolutely feel has changed. I think this issue is 100% back on track, pacing wise, storytelling wise. And it shows. So we've got Winds of Change, script by Larry Hama, pencils Andrew Wildman, inks by Stephen Baskerville, lettering Rick Parker, colors Bob Sharon, editor is David Wall, and editor-in-chief Tom DeFalco. and we open up with the ninja force deep inside a mountain in Transcarpathia. So you remember, the ninjas weren't doing much in those previous issues, and they weren't really effective, and they weren't really literally doing anything. They were standing on the side of the mountain, and then they were getting captured, and then they were running up and down in the Deathstroke castle and not actually confronting anyone, just running from fight to fight and then running to the next fight and so on and so forth. So they escaped through the trees. They ran into the leader of the Red Ninjas, and the leader of the Red Ninjas revealed himself, took off his Red Ninja outfit and said, "Ha ha, I'm really Firefly." So we got the whole I'm really Firefly storyline. And that was, it was an eye-opener, for sure. But now we're catching up on that. And when last we left, he was going to subject the ninjas to the brainwave scanner. And here he's done that to all of them. So it's, Shebang and Dojo and Nunchuck and Storm Shadow. They've all been mind wiped, or, brain scanned, or whatever you want to call it. It's not really mind wiping per se. They can do multiple things with it. We all know. You can destroy just certain memories. You can kind of color them somehow, make them more Cobra centric, or just straight up remove them, or you can wipe their mind. You can do a bunch of things. So they've all been kind of zombified and are standing there docile, while Snake Eyes is getting put into the brainwave scanner, and they're going to go to work on his mind. This is all being led by the now green suited Firefly, not the, in my opinion, super dope blue camouflage Firefly.
Yo, Joe!
Snake Eyes is all strapped in. He instructs him to turn the scanner on, and this is where I would, I think today, where this issue being done, I think 100% this sequence would have been drawn 8-bit, because they talk about it. They say, "My robotic minions, welcome to the labyrinth that is the computer-generated symbolic representation of Snake Eyes' brain. Follow me in electronic pixel form like living characters in a video game." So we've been here before. We've been inside the brainwave scanner. They use color really to denote that they're in there. In this case, everyone's shades of pink or purple. But I would have loved to see, and if we were doing it today, I would love to see it really drawn more like a video game. I think, and this is as someone who lived through the era, I think this video games were still so, like, 8-bit art wasn't a thing back then, right? If that makes any sense, because 8-bit art just was it's just what video games look like. We hadn't yet progressed very far from, the original super pixelated Atari into now we're getting into Nintendo style drawings. So we don't have a lot to compare it to. And I think when you get those comparisons, you get into the 16-bit and the 32-bit and the 64-bit era. And obviously now we're long past those bits. But now when we reflect on it, we can go, oh yeah, now you can get hyper realistic video game looking dude. And you can draw someone a little more pixelated to make it stand out as a video game. I don't think that was in the consciousness at the time. The closest we get is, that I can remember, is a few years earlier, probably about 8 years earlier. They did the Incredible Hulk cartoon, and the Zax. Was it Zax that came alive? Or was it just, they just called him like Commander? It was a video game character that looked like Zax, but I don't think they called him Zax for some reason. Came alive in the Hulk cartoon, and he, and he terrorized, or was it Spider-Man Amazing Friends? You know what? I think it was Spider-Man Amazing Friends, and I'm thinking of Zax because Zax fought the Hulk. But it was that giant computer thing, and it was drawn like a flat dimensional cube character that fought everybody, right? So that's one. I also remember in this time, right around this time, and it probably hadn't even dropped yet, when you get to the Batman the Animated Series, and that early first season, maybe second season, you have Robin fighting in a video game. I think they kind of did video game visualizations there, but I hope you hear what I'm saying. I don't think that it just wasn't in our consciousness. So I don't blame him for not drawing it super pixelated and super 8-bitty, because that's just what it was. So they're using the colors to make you remember that you're in a video game, not necessarily a change in the artwork. Were we doing this today, I would absolutely say make the artwork look like an old 8-bit video game. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a complaint. It's more of I think it's more of an observation of where they were at the time. So they're going through Snake Eyes' head and destroying his memories.
Yo, Joe!
They do hit a box, and it is sealed up tight. It's resistant to memory tampering. We don't even know what's in there technically. It could be anything. Could be members of his sister. Could be whatever. We do not know. But they cannot break into it. But they realize that it's been locked off by someone who reconfigured it with the Arashikage mindset. And Firefly realizes this. And he's going to take some, in his words, drastic measures.
Yo, Joe!
So instead of eliminating some of these, they're going to put Firefly's visage over all of Snake Eyes' memories. The only thing I have here is that, one, Firefly just debuted that look. I don't know how powerful that look would be in Snake Eyes' memory. It's like saying, like, I just bought a new outfit. Don't you remember my new outfit? Like, I've only shown it to you once. Like, maybe if he had used an image of Cobra or Cobra Commander or whatever, but he's using his new look, Firefly. And then secondly on that, my opinion, I don't like this new look Firefly. Not only not as a ninja, but also as a look. I think it's so generic and so unimpressive. I'm not a huge fan of it. That it doesn't seem to be, in his words, a commanding visage.
Yo, Joe!
So now, talking about that comic story pacing that we talked about, that we're back to with Larry. So I feel like this is, once again, Larry being Larry, and for good, for much better use. So I feel like, maybe some editorial reins, and I'm reading into it, might be 100% incorrect. It might have, that 3-part story idea may 100% have been his idea. I don't know. But this pacing of this book, starting here, felt more natural and felt more like what we're used to in G.I. Joe. Because now we just go entirely to Krugenst. I'm not going to pronounce that. It's the capital of Borovia. And you guys remember Borovia. This is where the Joes have spent a lot of time. They were kidnapped. Snake Eyes and the gang helped the White Clown liberate Magda. Then they helped Magda come to power. And apparently Borovia is still having some issues. So this is where their neighbors, the Transcarpathia, and Lady J and Hawk left the crew that were they were hiding out. The crew was hiding out in a rock quarry. So they left them to go apparently get tickets to get out of there. They escaped Cobras and all that stuff, but now they're stranded. So Lady J and Hawk are trying to get passage out of Borovia. They want to get to Austria, Siedem, Blitz, Ostrich. Yeah, interesting. These are cities that I've never heard of before, and I apologize for my pronunciations. They're offensive, and I'm sure they're terrible. But Hawk is trying to get tickets, and Lady J is doing a little bit of the narrative lifting for us. Like, we shouldn't have left the Joes at the rock quarry. And she says, ever since the provisional government collapsed, this country has become a battleground for extremists. So that tells us, if you're paying attention, the government that Magda, we thought Magda had liberated it and taken over and was going to do something good to be good to people and not just be racist and crazy, with classist and, tiers of system. Apparently she lost that fight, because here the security guards immediately start calling them lower Borovian animals once again. And that was the big fight. Going back 20 issues, that there was the upper Borovians and lower Borovians. And once they got their freedom, they then turned on each other and were like, well, you're not good enough, so we don't like you anyway. So the more things change, the more they stay the same in Borovia. But it does get you thinking, where is the White Clown and Magda?
Yo, Joe!
So as the action heats up, the ticket guy closes a security window, and literally fighting is starting. So people are the security guards are starting to beat on people, and Hawk and Lady J realize they gotta beat feet, because they're gonna stand out like a sore thumb, and they're gonna get caught by these guards and be roughed up. So they have to sneak out through the train yard, and unfortunately they do run into some dudes. Although Hawk thinks they're okay, he says that they're supposed to be pro-democracy. But
Yo, Joe!
Those dudes either mistakenly shoot Hawk or they just don't care, and they shoot Hawk. And Hawk takes a bullet right in the chest. Don't worry, Doc called. He's going to be okay. And turns out that those guys, they were like the freedom fighters. I think Hawk did have it pegged right. It's just he got caught up because then they get in a firefight with the security goons. So Hawk and Jay are just literally caught in the middle between this. And Hawk is bleeding out while Lady J gets captured.
Yo, Joe!
Just a note to G.I. Joe. Stay out of Borovia. Nothing good happens in Borovia. I'm just going to say that. So back in New York City, at the absolutely completely rebuilt. So now we're all in on it now. We have absolutely rebuilt their consulate after Snake Eyes dismantled and destroyed it. Remember there was that one kind of fill-in issue where it was rebuilt and we were like, that's weird that they're still using it. Oh, no, it's fully rebuilt. But okay. But it's Cobra Commander. And this is where I really felt that Larry was back on his game. It's old school parlor game discussions where Cobra Commander is sitting in his base with his commanders. And yes, probably due to toy edicts, a lot of the better commanders, that we love, Deathstroke, Blood, etc., they're kind of out of Baroness. They're not in play, but he's got Road Pig, he's got Zorana, and now Cesspool is one of his lieutenants as well. They're all hanging out while Cobra Commander shoots at some security or some targets. In this case, it's Snake Eyes and Flint. And I love the pencils on this. I really like the detail Wildman's putting in here. I'm going to say I think he's improving on his faces. They're not all screaming. And I didn't mean that as facetiously as it sounded. But they're not. They're actually, you get a lot of acting on the faces on this page. Yes, Cobra Commander's in a mask, but Zorana's face looks good. Cesspool's face looks good. No one's screaming, with their mouth agape kind of a thing. And also on the subsequent pages as well. I really like the detail that he's putting on Cobra Commander's mask, how it's conforming to his face. I think it's just a great job with that. I like this. So he debuts this big floor-sized map of the world.
Yo, Joe!
And this is as much for us as it is for the goons in the in the picture. Now Road Pig is in, I think that's his V2 look. Is he Pythonized? But he's wearing like the neon green and neon orange Road Pig outfit. But they're standing over this like 3D hologram map of the world. And he's got Road Pig standing in Millville, their zombified town in the Midwest. Zorana is standing in both their New York consulate building and Broca Beach in New Jersey. Cesspool is standing over Florida, which is like the Gulf of Mexico, where his plasma tox refineries are. Then Cobra Commander is standing more in the Gulf of Mexico, where Cobra Island is. And he's pointing out that for all their work, they really don't have much of a global reach. And he's not wrong. So after all these years, these paltry holdings are all we have to show for. He's like, what about Asia? What about, there's a whole continent that we haven't expanded to. Like, there's all this big world out there. And here we are stuck in this little, four corners of the United States.
Yo, Joe!
He points out there's Siberia and Russia and all that stuff. It's just a big mess. And what I love about this whole 3-page sequence here is the cool visual of having Cobra Commander striding across the world, that he wants to take it over. And you get no better encapsulated than this one image on this page, the top right half-page panel. It's like a worm's eye view of Cobra Commander with his giant boot. Think of Godzilla walking over a mountaintop, and it's Cobra Commander. That says it all. This is the ambition. This is the visualization of his ambition. He's saying it out loud, but it's also, if you're just looking at this, you can see this is what he wants. He's pointing out that he wants to take over mines in Transcarpathia, oil fields in Borovia. And now, story-wise, I go, oh, again, are you kidding me? He goes, it's leading us back to the only direct threat he thinks we have is Deathstroke, back in Castle Deathstroke. So, all signs are pointing, but we're going back to fighting Deathstroke in his castle. And I go, all right, man, we've done that so much in the last year. Like, really, yeah. So I'm hoping that we don't go down that road too much. However, these 3 pages absolutely get an A in my book.
Yo, Joe!
So now we have Cesspool kind of arguing against it. He's pointing out that this is great and all, but unless we take care of the Joes, none of this is going to work. And Cobra Commander, rightfully points out that we don't know where the pit is because they thought it was in the desert, but it's not, and they don't really know, they don't really know where it's at. And so Cesspool, I think, does a good job as a lieutenant here, saying, well, that's what we got to work on next. And don't worry about expanding your operations here. We have to make a show of us versus G.I. Joe, which is too true. It's very, as far as think about the comic book, they had that fake pass on the fake pit. They haven't really had a good show of force against the Joe team, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yo, Joe!
In Borovia, we're not catching up on the guys in the quarry that Jay was talking about. Roadblock and Big Ben, and they're kind of just chilling. And they see Rock and Roll sees on a CNN camera feed that the security police are using the sports arena as a holding area for the prisoners. And you see everybody crouched over the screen, and they're kind of watching it all together. This is a good bit of catch up without doing overt exposition. It sets up this kind of quasi Optimus Prime looking truck in the front, and that comes into play a little later without drawing too much attention to it. It also gives us an intro to the guys that are there without really calling it out too much. Yeah, it's a good reminder because of that awkwardness in the pacing of these stories, we haven't caught up with these guys in 2-3 issues.
Yo, Joe!
Which, remember, in that time was literally 2 or 3 months. We're doing this week on week, and I'm having trouble remembering it. Think about, if you're a kid and it's been 2 months since you even checked on these guys, you need a good reminder where they're at. So they're watching on the CNN feed, and we see Lady J. She knows the cameras are on her, so she points her fingers to the cameraman, and the cameraman pans, and we see a bunch of dead bodies. And in those dead bodies is Hawk. We know he's not dead, but he's laying there with these wounded bodies at least. And then that camera gets shut down, and it tells the Joes that they got to head in and they got to rescue their team, which is great. I like what he does here. So what Wildman does here with this is because it's a TV and the picture on the TV is going to be pixelated and fuzzy. He does a layering effect on the artwork that makes it's like a fuzz bar effect that makes it clear that it's a TV. This is what I'm talking about with the video game stuff. And again, I think it's because we've been watching TVs. TV is such a thing that we know when we go to a monitor screen, you can make it fuzzy and people will get that. I don't think people were there yet with video games.
Yo, Joe!
Now back with the ninjas, I had to be reminded that, actually I went back and double checked that Storm Shadow had already been brainwashed here. He does say it in the beginning, so that it's not a no prize or anything. But I kind of forgot that they had already brainwashed Storm Shadow because we didn't see it. They were just standing there like zombies. I thought maybe they were trussed up, in handcuffs or something. But with them already being brainwashed, we see now Storm Shadow is breaking out of his brainwashing, and he's about to attack Firefly when he gets rebuffed.
Yo, Joe!
Which leads Firefly to replace Storm Shadow back into the brainwave scanner because it says the Storm Shadow needs another jolt or two, and they're going to go to work on his head too. Snake Eyes, they haven't finished their work with him. So now, Firefly is very intrigued by this map that he thinks he sees inside Storm Shadow's head, and we're going to find out what that is.
Yo, Joe!
But first, in Borovia, Lady J's making a break for it. These guards obviously don't know that she's, like part of an elite strike force team. So they're probably just more like, move along, lady, and then she breaks free and absolutely does some tremendous kung fu on people, punches and kicks her way, grabs a machine gun, and is fighting her way to freedom with speed lines and everything. I like seeing Lady J in action. She's fun. She's a fun character. She's a star of the show, and she always deserves the spotlight when she gets it.
Yo, Joe!
And now we get reintroduced to the White Clown and Magda, which is awesome because it's always good to check in on them. We find out that Magda well, on the next page, actually, we find out that she was president of Borovia until literally yesterday. But it's also funny that they're always in the middle of it. Like Borovia is a postage stamp country. I know they've called it that before. But anytime there's a riot, you're going to find White Clown and you're going to find Magda, because there they are. They're in the middle of everything. And they step up to help Lady J. And, she instructs them to fire short bursts and keep their heads down because she has to go check out one of the bodies. And she says, Hawk's alive. Hawk is still alive. Doc says he's going to be okay. But you can't get anyone to help him because all the Borovians don't want to help anyone because she's a troublemaker.
Yo, Joe!
And that's when Lady J gets real pissed off. And Magda and the White Clown are helping her. So they carry Hawk's body away. And this is where we find out that Magda was the president until yesterday, and she was being led across a soccer field to be shot. So that's sad. That you want good things for the White Clown and Magda and the people of Borovia, and they just can't get it.
Yo, Joe!
Now in downtown Krogunst, we see that truck that was in the picture earlier, but this time its cargo has a tarp over it, and Big Ben is hanging out in the back, Big Ben is riding shotgun. I think it's ambushed in the back maybe. And Big Ben's like, he is, I believe, based on the carrots, he is speaking Borovian, but he's also, based on the LO, I think he's got this British accent on it, which is what, to me, that's what tips them off. Because he's like, hello, but he's, the carrots in a comic book means they're speaking a different language. And if he was just speaking English, he would just be speaking English. So he is speaking Borovian, but he's got this thick English accent. And absolutely, I know that's what tips him off. So they're telling him, get out of the truck. And the Joes don't waste any time. They pull the tarp off, and there's, I forget what, the battle wagon is just pointing its giant missiles at these guys, and they just immediately put their hands up. This is a fun bit. You could do this, and you could play it out, and it could be a whole adventure, or you can just get right to it, which is what Larry does here. And in 4 quick panels, just gives to, you start with, they're incognito, they run into trouble, they get caught, they get found out, and then you just cut straight to the bad guys, quote unquote bad guys, with their arms in the air because they've been outmatched. That's good.
Yo, Joe!
And now for the final page, we circle back to the Cobra Consulate, and this is where 2 of our storylines are now going to converge. So Firefly has gotten this information out of Storm Shadow, and the map that he saw is for a floor plan of the pit and a map showing how to get to it. So he's calling Cobra Commander, and Cobra Commander says, I happen to know Firefly's dead in a freighter because he thinks he killed him. And Firefly says, you thought Zartan and Billy were free. You recognize my voice, don't you, rag face? So Cobra Commander knows he's still alive. And Firefly is going to negotiate probably his way back into Cobra with this. Into his good graces. I'm going to say this though, and I haven't read forward. I don't know if this is the pit in the desert, but this looks like the floor plan for the motor pool pit in Fort Wadsworth in New York. This looks like the motor pool layout. It probably is Utah, but we're going to find out next issue. So don't spoil it for me, you fools. But this does look like it's an older school map. I wonder if, if he used any reference or if he just drew. And it's a very brief outline, so it's not like it's a super detailed map. So don't get it twisted there. But I just think when I think of the Utah one, all I think of are like round Quonset huts and nothing. And this one's got some, regular A-frame buildings and like either a water tower or something like in the middle that makes me just reminisce, makes me think more that this might be Fort Wadsworth, which does that mean we're going to invade Fort Wadsworth? Because the old pit should still be in Fort Wadsworth. If so, I can't wait. If not, okay, that's also cool too. So that's it. We get into the post box from the pit. We've got letters here from James R. Rose out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Neil Burns out of Ooh, this is out of Halkirk in Caithness, Scotland. That's exciting. William Tinker out of Egan, Minnesota. And Chuck Van Hurlbeck. Chuck Van Hurlbeck out of Mount Clemens, Missouri? No, Michigan. Mount Clemens, Michigan. MIs and MOs. Mount Clemens, Michigan. You can also sign up for the G.I. Joe Special Forces fan club. This is exciting. Did anyone here ever enlist? I did not. Did anyone here ever sign up for the G.I. Joe Special Forces fan club? You get your identification card with your own serial number, certificate of enlistment to hang in your room, exclusive G.I. Joe action headgear, patch, full color sticker sheet, a mission letter from Hawk, and 2 issues of Mail Call, the official G.I. Joe newsletter. Did you guys ever sign up for this? If you did, send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what that was. If you've got pictures of it, throw it up on your Instagram. Let's link to it. Let's share that, because that's really exciting. So yes, I like this issue. This issue felt like it was back to the norm for a G.I. Joe style, pace, rhythm. I really liked it. And I like Wildman's pencils. I think are getting better each issue. I really do. I know I was a little hard on them early on, but I really do think they're coming together. So, yeah, good issue of G.I. Joe, 128. I appreciate each and every one of you listening. I hope you agree. And if you don't, that's the way it is. Life is life. And now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.